Detective Marcus Blackwell never forgot the sound he heard that night in the abandoned warehouse. A soft child's cry echoing from a sealed shipping container that, according to all records, should have been empty for 15 years. When he cut through the lock with an angle grinder, his hands trembled with anticipation. What he discovered inside didn't just shatter his understanding of justice. It set off a chain of events that would destroy the lives of everyone he loved. Stay with me, it only gets stranger. You won't believe what really happened. 3 days before that December night in 2024, it all began with a routine call. An anonymous voice reported suspicious activity at abandoned warehouses in Detroit's industrial district. Marcus, a 40-year-old detective with 20 years on the force, caught the case simply because he was on duty. His partner Sam Connor had gone on vacation, and Marcus was working alone, which he'd been preferring lately. After his divorce from Emily and constant problems with his teenage son Jason, solitude had become his refuge. Work was the only thing keeping him from completely drowning in alcohol and self-pity. If you like it so far, hit the subscribe button to help people to find stories like this. The Millennium Logistics warehouse complex had been empty since 2009, when the economic crisis buried its owner Richard Stanford's business. Now the place resembled a graveyard of the industrial age. Rusted hangars, broken windows, graffiti covering the walls. Marcus parked his beat-up Ford at the entrance and headed toward building number 7, where the strange sounds were supposedly coming from. His flashlight illuminated a corridor littered with trash and old pallets. The air smelled of mold and machine oil. That's when he heard it, weak, barely audible crying. A child's cry. Marcus's heart began racing. In 2 decades of police work, he'd seen enough to know that a child's cry in an abandoned warehouse could mean only one thing: human trafficking, abduction, or something even worse. He called for backup and emergency response, but the sound was coming from deep inside the building, and waiting was impossible. If there really was a child in danger, every minute counted. Following the sound, Marcus walked through a maze of corridors to a large storage room. In the center of the hall stood a solitary shipping container. Massive, dark blue, with the number ML7739 on the side. The crying was coming from inside. The container was locked with a padlock that looked new, unlike everything else in this godforsaken place. On the metal door was the logo of Stanford Group, the same company that once owned the warehouses. Marcus tried to look through the gaps but saw nothing. The crying became louder, more desperate. He couldn't wait for the emergency lock-cutting service to arrive. In his car trunk lay a portable angle grinder, a birthday gift from his ex-wife when they were still trying to save their marriage. At least something useful from Emily, he thought grimly as he returned to the car. Sparks flew in all directions as the grinder's disc bit into the metal lock. The sound was deafening in the warehouse silence, but the child's crying didn't stop, as if urging him to hurry. The lock gave way. Marcus threw aside the grinder and pulled at the heavy metal doors. They opened with an ominous creak. What he saw made him stagger backward. Inside the container was a furnished room. Not a torture chamber, not a prison, but a real child's room. Pink wallpaper with princesses, a small canopy bed, toys, books, even a television. Everything looked as if someone had tried to create the perfect room for a little girl. But the most horrifying thing was that the room was empty. Completely empty. The crying continued, but no child was visible anywhere. Marcus drew his gun and carefully stepped inside. The floor was covered with soft carpet. The air smelled of baby powder and something else. A sweet scent he couldn't identify. "Is anyone here?" he shouted. "I'm a police officer. You're safe." The crying suddenly stopped. The silence became even more frightening. Marcus searched every corner of the room. Under the bed, behind the toy cabinet, even in the small bathroom that was equipped in the corner. No one. But then where was the crying coming from? He noticed a small box on the nightstand. Pink, decorated with ribbons. Inside lay an old cassette tape. On the label, in a child's handwriting, was written, "For Daddy." Marcus found an old tape player among the toys and inserted the cassette. From the speakers came that same child's cry he'd been hearing. But it wasn't just a recording of crying. Between the sobs, A girl was saying something. "Daddy, Daddy, I'm here. I'm waiting for you. Please come get me. I'm scared. It's dark." The voice was weak, frightened. The girl was maybe 5 or 6 years old, no more. Marcus turned off the tape player, feeling cold creeping to his bones. What was this place? Whose room was this? And where was the girl who recorded this tape now? He began examining the room more carefully, photographing every detail. Children's drawings hung on the walls. They all depicted the same thing: a little girl with dark hair standing next to a tall man. Under the drawings was a signature, "Me and Daddy." In one of the drawings, Marcus noticed a strange detail. The man had a badge drawn on his chest. A police badge. The detective's heart skipped a beat. Could a police officer be involved in this case? He continued searching and discovered a diary hidden under the mattress. A pink notebook with a lock that opened easily. The pages were filled with childish handwriting. Day 1. Daddy said this is our secret house. No one will find us here. I like my new room, but I miss Mommy. Day 5. Daddy hasn't come for 3 days. The food is running out. I'm scared. Day 12. I screamed, but no one hears. Daddy said the walls here are thick. I recorded a tape. Maybe he'll hear that I'm waiting for him. Day 18. The water ran out. I can't open the door from inside. Daddy, where are you? The last entry was made in shaky handwriting. Day 22. I can't anymore. I feel very sick. Daddy, forgive me. I love you. Marcus closed the diary with trembling hands. The story was becoming clearer and more horrifying. Some pervert, possibly a police officer, had kidnapped a girl and kept her in this room, then abandoned her to die. But when did this happen? The diary wasn't dated. He continued searching and found what he was looking for. A photograph. A little girl with dark hair and big brown eyes was laughing, sitting on a man's shoulders. The man's face was cut off, but the police badge on his chest was visible. On the back of the photograph was an inscription: "Sarah and Daddy, our last good day. August 2009. 2009. 15 years before that December night in 2024. Marcus felt the floor disappearing from under his feet. If this girl had died here 15 years earlier, where was her body? And who turned on the tape player that December night? The sound of sirens was approaching. Backup had finally arrived. Marcus left the container feeling as if he'd spent not half an hour but an entire eternity inside. Sergeant Michael O'Connor arrived first, a veteran with 30 years of experience. Seeing the open container, he frowned. "What do we have here, Blackwell?" "A child's room," Marcus answered, still shaken by what he'd seen. "Looks like a place where they kept a kidnapped child. 15 years ago. O'Connor looked inside and whistled. "My God, did you find a body?" "No, just recordings. A girl's diary. She died here from hunger and thirst." "Someone reported suspicious activity?" "Anonymous call. But that doesn't matter. Michael, something terrible happened here. We need to pull up all missing children cases from 2009. Find a girl named Sarah." O'Connor looked at him strangely. "Marcus, are you sure you're feeling all right? Maybe you should take a couple days off?" "What are you talking about? Look for yourself." Marcus pointed to the container. "There's a child's room in there, diary, tape." O'Connor looked inside again, but confusion reflected on his face. "Marcus, there's nothing there. The container is empty." The detective turned around and looked into the container. His heart stopped. The container really was empty. No pink room, no toys, no diary. Just bare metal walls and floor covered with dust and cobwebs. "No, this is impossible," Marcus whispered. "I saw all of it. I held the diary in my hands, listened to the tape." He frantically searched his pockets, hoping to find the girl's photograph he was sure he'd taken with him. The pockets were empty. "Marcus," O'Connor said gently, "when did you last sleep normally? Eat? How much did you drink last night?" "I didn't drink," Marcus snapped. "I know what I saw. A girl named Sarah. She was locked here by some police officer." "A police officer?" O'Connor became serious. Marcus, are you accusing colleagues of child kidnapping based on hallucinations? These aren't hallucinations. But even saying these words, Marcus began to doubt. The stress of divorce, problems with his son, sleepless nights. Maybe his psyche really had broken down? Let's get out of here, O'Connor said. I'll drive you home, and tomorrow we'll talk to the department psychologist. Marcus wanted to resist but understood. In this state, no one would take him seriously. If he really was hallucinating, he needed help. And if not, then someone very powerful and dangerous was playing with his mind. At home, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat by the window with a cup of coffee, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. The child's room had been so real that he remembered every detail. The smell of powder, the texture of the pink carpet, the childish handwriting in the diary. Hallucinations couldn't be that detailed and logical. At 4 a.m, O'Connor called him. Marcus, sorry to bother you, but I checked. There was no anonymous call. Not a single report about suspicious activity at the warehouses. Who told you to go there? Marcus froze. He clearly remembered the duty officer passing him the call. But if there was no call, someone wanted you to be at that warehouse, O'Connor continued. The question is who and why. After this conversation, Marcus made a decision. Officially, he would take sick leave and see a psychologist as protocol required. But unofficially, he would investigate this case. Too many strange coincidences to blame everything on mental illness. First, he went to the city library and pulled up all newspapers from August 2009. If a girl named Sarah really disappeared at that time, it should have been written about. He reviewed hundreds of pages until he found a small note in the Detroit Free Press from August 27, 2009. The search continues for 6-year-old Sarah Morrison, who disappeared 4 days ago during a walk in Belle Isle Park. The girl was last seen in the company of an unknown man around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Police ask anyone with information about Sarah's whereabouts to call. Sarah Morrison. She existed. Marcus found several more notes about the search, but they stopped after 2 weeks. The girl was never found. The case remained unsolved. He photographed all the articles and went to the police department archive. If the case was officially opened, there should be a file with materials. Case number 2009-0847 really existed. The file was thick. Police had seriously searched for the girl. Marcus reviewed witness statements, photographs from the alleged kidnapping site, and a list of suspects. His attention was drawn to the lead investigator's report. The case was handled by Detective Richard Stanford. Stanford, the same name as the warehouse complex owner. Marcus delved deeper into studying the documents. Richard Stanford worked in the department from 2002 to 2011. He specialized in missing children cases. Had an excellent reputation, many solved cases. In 2011, he retired due to health reasons and went into business. He bought the warehouse complex and created a logistics company. Business prospered until the 2009 crisis. Marcus felt pieces of the puzzle beginning to fall into place. Stanford led the case of Sarah's disappearance, and the warehouse belonged to his company. Too many coincidences. He found Stanford's home address and drove there. The house was in a respectable suburb, a large colonial-style mansion. But the windows were boarded up, and a for sale sign hung on the gate. A neighbor watering flowers told him that Richard Stanford had died in 2021 from a heart attack. The house had been empty since then. Strange man, she added. Lived alone, had no children. They said work broke him. Too many child tragedies. Marcus sat in his car and tried to process the information. Stanford was dead, but someone had lured him to the warehouse. Someone knew about Sarah Morrison and what happened to her. His thoughts were interrupted by a phone call. Unfamiliar number with an Oregon area code. Detective Blackwell? A child's voice, quiet and frightened. Marcus almost dropped the phone. He recognized this voice. The same voice from the tape. Sarah? He whispered. You found my room. Thank you. I waited so long for someone to find me. Where are you? Sarah, where are you now? I'm here. I'm always here. In the darkness. Detective Blackwell, you must find who did this to me. You must tell everyone the truth. Sarah, listen to me. I'm a police officer. I'll help you. Tell me where you are. The line went dead. Marcus tried calling back, but the number was unavailable. He checked his call history, no incoming calls in the last hour. But he definitely heard the girl's voice, and she called him by name. The phone rang again. This time it was O'Connor calling. Marcus, where are you? We need to talk. Urgently. What happened? Someone filed a complaint against you with Internal Affairs. They say you're accusing a dead colleague of child kidnapping, breaking into archives, bothering citizens. Tomorrow you're called in for questioning. Who filed the complaint? Anonymous. But they checked the facts. You really were studying Sarah Morrison's case and looking for information about Stanford. Marcus, before it's too late, stop this. See a psychologist, take leave. Major, you're making a mistake. Give me at least a week. The decision is final. Turn in your badge and weapon. Leaving the department building, Marcus felt betrayed and used. But he wasn't going to give up. If the official system didn't want to search for truth, he'd find it himself. That evening his phone rang again. The same child's voice. Detective Blackwell, did they stop you? Sarah, is this really you? You must help me. I can't live like this anymore. Every day I pretend to be his daughter. Every day I remember how I died in that room. And then I woke up here. Sarah, I don't understand. Did you die or not? I don't know. Maybe I died. Maybe this is hell. He says I'm his daughter, that my mother died in childbirth, that I had a head injury and don't remember anything. But I remember. I remember my real mother. I remember how he locked me in that room. Where are you now? At O'Connor's house? Yes, but I can't leave. The doors are locked from inside. The windows don't open. If I try to run away, he finds me. He always finds me. Sarah, I'll come to your house. Tonight. Be ready. No, he'll kill you. He's killed many already. Detective Stanford also wanted to help me. Marcus froze. Stanford knew the truth? He almost figured everything out. But then he had a heart attack. Very convenient, right? Sarah, I'll find a way to help you. But I need evidence. Come to the warehouse tomorrow at midnight. I'll show you what he hid. The connection broke again. Marcus couldn't sleep all night, thinking through a plan. If O'Connor really killed Stanford and was keeping Sarah against her will, then he was extremely dangerous. Going to the meeting without weapons and backup was suicide. But who could he trust? Who else might be involved in this case? In the morning, he got an unexpected call from his former partner Sam Connor, who was supposed to return from vacation. Marcus, what the hell is going on? They called me from the department, said you're suspended, accusing colleagues of child kidnapping. Have you lost your mind? Sam, I need your help. Unofficially. What about? Marcus told the whole story, starting with the container at the warehouse. Sam was quiet for a long time. Marcus, this sounds crazy, but I've known you 15 years. You're not paranoid or a fantasist. If you say you saw a child's room, then it was there. Will you help me? I have contacts in the lab. I can arrange an unofficial DNA test if you get samples. And I have surveillance cameras. We can install them at O'Connor's house. Sam, this could be dangerous. If I'm right, O'Connor kills everyone who gets close to the truth. Then all the more reason not to leave the girl with him. During the day, they developed a plan. Sam would install hidden cameras around O'Connor's house, and Marcus would try to get DNA samples from the girl. If genetic analysis confirmed this was Sarah Morrison, they'd have grounds for arrest. But first, Marcus had to meet Sarah at the warehouse. At 11 in the evening, he parked at the entrance to the warehouse complex territory. The place looked even more sinister in the dark. Shadows from ruined buildings created bizarre shapes, and wind howled between the hangars. Marcus walked to the 7th warehouse where the fateful container was located. The door was open, dim light glowing inside. Sarah? He called. From deep in the warehouse came a voice. I'm here. Marcus headed toward the sound and saw a girl standing by the container. The same girl from O'Connor's photograph, but she looked strange, almost translucent. "Sarah, is this really you? Come closer. I'll show you what he hid." Marcus approached, and the girl pointed to a corner of the container. There, barely visible, was a small metal plate. When he lifted it, underneath was a small niche carved into the floor. Inside lay a plastic bag with documents. "Detective Stanford hid this before he died," Sarah said. He knew they were watching him. Marcus opened the bag. Inside were photographs, documents, medical records. The first photograph showed Sarah Morrison in a hospital room. She was connected to life support equipment but was clearly alive. A document from the hospital explained the situation. Sarah was found at an abandoned warehouse in critical condition. Dehydration, starvation, coma. Doctors fought for her life for 2 weeks, but officially the girl was listed as dead. The next document was even more shocking. A death certificate signed by Coroner William O'Connor, Sergeant Michael O'Connor's brother. The picture was becoming clear. The O'Connor brothers had forged the death certificate so Sarah would officially be considered dead. Michael took the girl to his home, passing her off as an adopted daughter. And all these years, Sarah had been living with the man who destroyed her life. But how was O'Connor connected to the kidnapping? Marcus continued studying the documents. Stanford's report revealed the terrible truth. O'Connor wasn't just a police officer, but a member of a criminal network that trafficked children. Stanford had gotten on the trail of this network while investigating Sarah's case. O'Connor learned that he was being investigated and decided to get rid of Sarah. He locked her in the container, hoping she would die and the case would close. But the girl survived. Then O'Connor went with an even more cruel plan. He forged death documents and took Sarah home, passing her off as an adopted daughter. This way, he got perfect cover. Who would suspect a family man raising an orphan girl? "How did you learn about all this?" Marcus asked. "I overheard his conversations. He thought I didn't remember anything because of the trauma. But I remembered everything. Every day, every nightmare." "Why didn't you run away? Ask for help?" "I tried. Many times. But who would believe me? I have no documents proving who I am. Officially, Sarah Morrison is dead. And I'm Emma O'Connor, his adopted daughter with amnesia." Marcus understood the cynicism of the plan. O'Connor hadn't just hidden Sarah. He'd erased her identity, turning her into a ghost. "Sarah, I have a plan. My partner will help conduct a DNA test. If we prove who you really are, he'll kill us both, like he killed Detective Stanford. We have evidence. These documents. He'll burn them like he burned everything else, and declare us mentally ill or find us dead." Marcus wanted to object but heard the sound of an approaching car. Headlights illuminated the warehouse walls. "He found me," Sarah whispered. "He always finds me." The girl dissolved into shadow, and Marcus hid the documents and prepared to meet O'Connor. The sergeant entered the warehouse with gun drawn. "Marcus, what the hell are you doing here?" "Could ask you the same thing. How did you know I was here?" "I've been watching you since your suspension. Afraid you'd do something stupid. Turns out I was right." O'Connor approached, keeping his weapon ready. "Marcus, you're sick. You're talking to ghosts, seeing things that aren't there. You need help." "I know the truth, Michael. About Sarah Morrison, about your brother the coroner, about the pedophile network." O'Connor's face changed. The mask of friendliness fell away, revealing cold cruelty. "What network? What are you talking about?" "Don't pretend. Stanford left evidence. All the documents, all the photographs. I know what you did to children." O'Connor laughed. "Stanford was as sick as you are. He saw conspiracies where there weren't any. Pedophile networks, child trafficking, paranoid nonsense." "Then explain who Emma O'Connor is? Your adopted daughter who amazingly resembles missing Sarah Morrison?" "Emma really is my adopted daughter. We took her from an orphanage when she was 2. The adoption papers exist. Forged papers. Real ones. You can check." Marcus realized O'Connor had prepared for such a conversation. He'd created perfect cover, invulnerable to checks. Michael, I saw her. Sarah was here at this warehouse. She told me the truth. Marcus, listen to yourself. You're talking to a dead girl? Seeing ghosts? I saw the evidence. Where is it? Show me this evidence. Marcus reached for the documents but stopped. If he showed them to O'Connor, he'd destroy the only evidence. Won't show them? O'Connor smirked. Because they don't exist. Just like there was no child's room in the container. Just like there was no tape recording. Your mind is playing tricks on you, Marcus. Then why are you here? Why are you watching me? Because I care about you. You're my friend, my colleague. I don't want you to do something irreversible. O'Connor lowered his gun. Let's go home. Tomorrow morning I'll take you to a psychiatrist. A good specialist who'll help you sort out these hallucinations. Marcus hesitated. Maybe O'Connor was right. Maybe he really was sick, and all these meetings with Sarah were products of a sick imagination. But then where did the documents in his pocket come from? He discreetly felt his pocket. The documents were there. So Sarah really existed. All right, Michael. Let's go. They left the warehouse together. O'Connor seemed calm, even friendly. But Marcus noticed how tense his shoulders were, how often he glanced around. Michael, can I ask something? How long did you know Stanford? Worked in the same department about 5 years. Good cop, but toward the end of his career became paranoid. Saw enemies everywhere. And when did he die? 3 years ago. Heart attack right in the office. Stress, probably. Work broke him. Were you with him when it happened? O'Connor stopped. What are you trying to say, Marcus? Nothing. Just curious. Yes, I was nearby. We were talking about his current cases, and suddenly he felt sick. I called an ambulance, but it was too late. What cases were you discussing? Don't remember. It's been 3 years. But Marcus noticed how O'Connor's voice trembled. He remembered that conversation very well. Michael, where were you on August 27th, 2009? What the hell, Marcus? Why are you asking? Just curious. That's the day Sarah Morrison disappeared. O'Connor turned and pointed his gun at him. Enough, Marcus. Enough digging. You won't find anything because there's nothing to find. So you remember that day? I remember I was patrolling the Belle Isle area. Officially. And what happened unofficially? O'Connor stared at him for a long time, weighing options. Unofficially, I saved a girl from real monsters. Criminals who bought her from a drug-addicted mother. I found their den, freed Sarah, but it was too late. The girl was dying. And you took her to the hospital? I took her to my brother. Will. He's a doctor, has a private clinic. We saved her life. Why not a regular hospital? Because then there would have been questions. Investigation. And the criminals would have stayed free. They had connections in police, in the prosecutor's office. They would have wriggled out. Marcus felt O'Connor was telling partial truth, mixing it with lies. And what happened next? Sarah recovered but lost her memory. The trauma was too strong. She didn't remember her real name or what happened to her. Will said it was better not to remind her of the past. And you decided to keep her? What else could we do? Put her in an orphanage? Sarah had already been through enough horrors. My wife couldn't have children. We'd wanted to adopt for a long time. Everything worked out perfectly. Except Sarah remembers the truth. Sarah doesn't remember anything. She has amnesia. All this talk about the past is fantasies of a sick brain. Then how does she know details only known from case files? She doesn't know any details. You're making them up yourself. O'Connor approached, pointing the barrel directly at Marcus. Last time I'm asking, where's the evidence you supposedly found? Marcus realized the game was over. O'Connor wasn't going to let him go. He knew too much. Michael, even if you kill me, the truth will come out anyway. My partner knows where I am. If I don't return. Your partner is on vacation in Mexico. He doesn't even know you're suspended from duty. Marcus went cold. O'Connor had done his homework. And Sam? He knows about my suspicions. Sam Connor? Your former partner? O'Connor smirked. Marcus, you do realize the surname isn't a coincidence? The world turned upside down. Sam Connor, a relative of Michael O'Connor. The whole plan with DNA testing and hidden cameras was a trap. Sam is my nephew, O'Connor continued. My older brother's son. Good boy, loyal to family. When you asked him for help, he called me immediately. So you're all involved in this? In what? In saving a girl from criminals? In giving her a new life? A new family? In abduction? In forging documents? In Stanford's elimination? Stanford died of a heart attack. Natural death. Which you provoked. Connor shrugged. No proof. Just like there's no proof of any of your accusations. There's only the ravings of a suspended detective with mental problems. And the documents Stanford hid? What documents? You said Sarah showed you the hiding place. But Sarah doesn't exist. She died 15 years ago. Death certificate signed by my brother, the coroner. All official. Marcus understood the sophistication of the plan. Even if he found Stanford's documents, they'd be declared forgeries. Even if they conducted DNA tests, the results could be disputed. And he himself would be portrayed as a mentally ill detective who invented the whole conspiracy. What are you going to do? He asked. What I must. Protect my family. O'Connor raised his gun. Sorry, Marcus. You're a good cop, but too curious. And curiosity kills. At that moment, a familiar voice came from the darkness. Don't kill him, please. O'Connor turned. Sarah emerged from the warehouse shadow. This time she looked absolutely real. Emma? O'Connor lowered his weapon. What are you doing here? How did you find me? I followed you. I heard the whole conversation. Emma, Detective Blackwell is sick. He's making up stories about a past that didn't exist. Don't listen to him. I remember the truth, Sarah said quietly. I always remembered. I remember my real mother. I remember how you lured me in the park. I remember that room where you kept me. O'Connor's face twisted. You don't remember anything. You have amnesia. I was pretending. 15 years I pretended I didn't remember. Because I was afraid. Afraid you'd kill me like you killed other children. What other children? Tommy Wilson, Lisa Fraser, Jimmy Clark. I found their photos in your safe, along with video recordings. O'Connor paled. You went through my things? I was looking for evidence, hoping someday I'd find an honest police officer who would help me. Sarah looked at Marcus. Thank you for believing me. Thank you for not giving up. Sarah, where are those photos now? In a safe place. If something happens to me, they'll be found. O'Connor raised his gun again, but now pointed it at Sarah. Enough of this performance. Emma, you're coming home with me. Right now. My name is Sarah Morrison, and I'm not going with you anymore. You will, because you have no choice. Officially, you don't exist. Sarah Morrison is dead. And Emma O'Connor is my daughter. Not daughter, prisoner. O'Connor cocked the hammer. Last warning, Emma. We're going home. No. The shot thundered in the warehouse silence. Marcus lunged forward, but it was too late. Sarah fell, pressing her hands to her chest. Blood seeped between her fingers. Sarah. Marcus knelt beside her. The documents. She wheezed. At school. In my locker. Combination. August 27th. She closed her eyes. O'Connor stood over them with the smoking gun. Now you've seen how Emma O'Connor died at the hands of a mentally ill detective who mistook her for the ghost of a missing girl. Tragic story. No one will believe it. They will. You're suspended from duty, you have drinking problems, divorce, problems with your son. Mental illness is a logical explanation. O'Connor pointed the gun at Marcus. And now you'll try to take my weapon, and I'll be forced to shoot in self-defense. Michael, think about it. You kill me, but the truth will come out anyway. Too much evidence. What evidence? Hallucinations of a sick detective? DNA analysis will show who Sarah is. DNA will show this is Emma O'Connor. We have her medical records from the moment of adoption. Forged records. Real ones. My brother is a coroner, my nephew is a detective, I have connections in hospitals. Creating a legend isn't difficult. Marcus realized he was trapped in a plan thought out to the smallest detail. The O'Connor family had created a criminal network controlling all aspects of the law enforcement system. How many children did you take? We didn't take children. We saved them from bad people and gave them new families. Sold them, provided them better lives. For compensation, of course. And those who didn't suit clients? O'Connor shrugged. Not all children are equally desirable. You killed them. I freed them from suffering. Marcus looked at this man he'd worked with for 15 years and didn't recognize him. Before him stood not a police officer, but a monster in uniform. And Sarah? Why did you keep her for yourself? Sarah was special. Beautiful, smart, obedient. My wife always wanted a daughter exactly like that. And clients prefer boys. 15 years you kept her like a pet. I gave her a family, a home, education. She should have been grateful. She was your prisoner. She was my daughter. O'Connor was screaming, waving his gun. Marcus realized he had a chance. When O'Connor got distracted by emotions, the detective lunged at him. They fought for the weapon. O'Connor was older, but Marcus was in better physical shape. The gun fell from the sergeant's hands and flew aside. You'll prove nothing, O'Connor shouted, trying to reach the weapon. You have no evidence. I do, Sarah said weakly. Marcus turned. The girl was alive, though losing a lot of blood. In her hand, she held a recorder. I recorded. Everything. Your confession. About other children. O'Connor froze. No, this is impossible. Possible, Sarah whispered. Detective Stanford taught me, always record your conversations. Marcus crawled to the gun and pointed it at O'Connor. Game over, Michael. But O'Connor unexpectedly laughed. Think this changes anything? A recording by a minor with mental problems? Obtained illegally? No court will accept it. They will, because it's not alone. The voice came from the warehouse entrance. Marcus turned and saw a man in a suit with a camera. Who are you? He asked. Jonathan Walsh, investigative journalist from the Washington Post. Sarah contacted me a month ago and told her story. We were preparing material but needed evidence. You filmed all this? Every word. Sergeant O'Connor's confession to child murders. His admission to document forgery. Attempted murder of a police officer. O'Connor tried to run for the exit, but Marcus was faster. He knocked the sergeant to the ground and cuffed him. Michael O'Connor, you're under arrest for suspicion of abduction, human trafficking, and elimination of a witness. Anything you say can and will be used against you in court. While they waited for emergency services to arrive, Sarah told the complete story. A month ago, she'd finally decided to seek help from journalists. She contacted Walsh through anonymous internet channels and told him about her situation. Walsh initially didn't believe her, but Sarah provided details that an outsider couldn't know. Names of missing children, dates, locations. Information she'd been collecting for 15 years while living in O'Connor's house. I copied his files when he was sleeping, she explained. Photographed documents, recorded conversations. I knew it would come in handy someday. Why did you wait so long? I was afraid. O'Connor controlled everything. Police, medical examiner's office, courts. If I tried to escape at 14, they would have returned me as a runaway. And at 18, I decided to gather enough evidence to put away the whole network. And the calls to me? The meetings at the warehouse? Walsh advised finding an honest police officer. I studied all the department detectives and chose you. You had a reputation as someone who doesn't give up. But how did you know I'd come to the warehouse that first night? Sarah smiled despite the pain. I didn't know. Walsh made the anonymous call. We hoped the case would go to someone decent. Lucky it was you. And the child's room in the container? It was real. O'Connor really kept me there after the kidnapping. But after you found it, he ordered his people to remove everything. In one night. People? He has accomplices? A whole network. Police officers, doctors, judges, social workers. They've been covering for each other for 20 years. Marcus understood the scale of the crime. This wasn't just child trafficking, but a corruption scheme that had penetrated the entire city's law enforcement system. Sarah, do you have names of all participants? Yes, complete list in my school locker. Plus bank accounts, photographs, video recordings. Everything needed for their arrest. The ambulance arrived. While medics treated Sarah, O'Connor tried to talk to Marcus. You don't understand what you've gotten into. This system is bigger than you think. If you try to destroy it, they'll eliminate you. Let them try. They won't try. They'll do it. They have people in the FBI in the prosecutor's office. They'll overturn any evidence. Not this time, because the story's already going to print. Tomorrow the whole country will know the truth. O'Connor fell silent, realizing the game was truly over. An hour later, an FBI squad arrived at the scene. Agent Carter, leading the operation, explained they'd long suspected the existence of a corruption network in Detroit, but couldn't find an entry point. Your investigation gave us exactly what we were looking for, he told Marcus. Names, documents, witness testimony. What will happen to Sarah? Officially, she'll be recognized as an abduction victim. Her real name will be restored, and she'll be provided witness protection until all court proceedings conclude. What about her real parents? Mother died 3 years after her daughter's disappearance. Drugs, depression. No father. He abandoned the family before Sarah's birth. The girl has a grandmother on her mother's side who's been searching for her all these years. Marcus looked at Sarah being loaded into the ambulance. A girl who lost her childhood but didn't lose her will to fight. Who spent 15 years planning her liberation and the liberation of other victims. Sarah, he called. She turned. Thank you, he said, for not giving up, for fighting. Thank you, for believing. The ambulance drove away, taking the girl to a new life, to a real family, a real name, to freedom she'd been denied for 15 years. By 2025, the court had handed down sentences. Michael O'Connor received life imprisonment without possibility of parole. His brother, the coroner, got 25 years. Nephew Sam got 15 years for accessory. In total, 47 people went through the network case. Among them were police officers of all ranks, judges, prosecutors, doctors, social workers, people who should have protected children but instead trafficked them. They found remains of 18 children. Another 12 were found alive in various families across the country. They were returned to their real parents or placed in reliable foster homes. Marcus was reinstated and promoted to senior detective. He headed a new unit for combating human trafficking. Sarah returned to her grandmother in Oregon, changed her name to Sarah Elizabeth Morrison Hill, and entered college to study journalism. She wanted to tell stories of those who had no one to speak for them. They corresponded. In one letter she wrote, Detective Blackwell, you know what's the most terrible thing about this whole story? Not that I was taken. Not that I was held captive. The most terrible thing is that the system that should have protected me actually betrayed me. Police officers, judges, doctors, all those a child in trouble should turn to. And the most important thing, that people like you still exist. People who don't give up even when everything's against them. Marcus reread this letter every time doubt overwhelmed him. When it seemed there was no justice in the world, that the system was rotten through, that honest people had no place in this world. But Sarah was right. Justice exists. You just need to look for it in the right places and not give up, even when it seems you've lost your mind. A year later, Marcus received another letter from Sarah. Today I finished an article about our case. It's coming out in next month's Oregon Daily. It's called Voice in the Dark: How One Girl Destroyed a Criminal Empire. I wanted you to read it first, and I wanted to say thank you for hearing my voice when everyone else thought it was a hallucination, for believing a ghost girl who officially didn't exist, for risking your career and life for truth. The world became a little better thanks to people like you. Marcus closed the letter and looked out the window. The sun was setting over Detroit, painting the sky orange. Somewhere in this city there might be other children needing help. Other voices in the dark, waiting for someone to hear them. He took a new case from his desk, another missing child, and opened the file. The work continued, because justice never sleeps. It just sometimes speaks in whispers, and you need to listen very carefully to hear it. That night at the warehouse, Marcus thought he was going insane. It turned out he was closer to truth than ever in his life. Sometimes the most incredible stories turn out to be the most true. And voices that others consider hallucinations are actually screaming for help. The main thing is not to stop listening. 7 years after the trial, Marcus received a wedding invitation. Sarah Elizabeth Morrison Collins was celebrating her 5th wedding anniversary with James Collins, a journalist she'd met in college. They planned to work together, specializing in investigations of corruption in law enforcement. On the back of the invitation, she'd written by hand, "Dear Detective Blackwell, I want you to know, every day of my new life begins with gratitude to the person who heard my voice in the dark. Every morning I wake up free, and that's your doing. You saved not only me but all those children they could have stolen in the future. You stopped monsters who considered themselves invulnerable. And most importantly, you proved that justice exists. Sometimes it just needs help from good people. Thank you for being such a person. Thank you for not giving up. With love and eternal gratitude, Sarah." Marcus put the invitation on his desk and smiled. It was raining outside, but sunshine filled his soul. Justice had won. The voice in the dark had been heard. And somewhere in the world, there was one less monster and one more free soul. That was enough to keep fighting. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to It Happened to Me. A new story drops daily.